Welcome to part 3 of this crochet cow tutorial. If you haven't already watched part 1 or 2, make sure to go do that, but otherwise let's get straight into it. So at this point we're going to start sewing. So we're going to grab our head and our snout and we're going to sew the snout to the head. So the snout should be sewn on so that the top of the snout is between the row above the eyes. So this is where the top of the snout should be. And we're just going to sew around it. Just going to start down here. And we're just going to sew all the way around it and just keep going around into each stitch. I'm also going to add just a tiny bit of stuffing at this point. And then we're just going to bring the yarn to a random point once we are done with that round. I'm having a lot of trouble with Premier yarns at this point because this is what the end of the yarn looks like after sewing the snout on. Not sure if anyone else is having this trouble, but anyway, we're just going to cut the yarn off up there. And this is what the snout should look like after it's been sewn on. Now we're going to sew the ears on. So we are going to put both tails through the yarn needle at the same time. And make sure that the outside part is facing the back when we sew the ears on. But we're going to start on this side and the ear should be at the bottom of the left hand patch right at the back. So we're going to sew it on at like this point here. Now you're going to leave the small tail at that point. Once again, having a lot of trouble with the yarn, but we shall persevere. And then make sure the outside is facing the back and we're just going to sew that on. Make sure it's secure. Go into the ear, into the head, and do that a couple of times. And then we're going to bring it to the same point that the other tail is at. And we're going to tie those two together and then tuck them inside. So this is what the ear looks like on that side, and we're just going to sew the other ear onto the other side so that it is matching. So once you have done sewing on the ears, we're going to move on to sewing the horns on. So the horns are going to go directly behind the ears but to the left, so closer to the middle of the head, just like this. So we're just going to sew those on at about this point here on the head. And then we are going to bring the tail of that to a random point at the back of the head. And we'll tie that to the tail of the other horn later. And then we're just going to sew the other horn on. And then we're going to bring this tail to the same point as the other tail. And then we're going to tie them together and cut off the yarn. And this is what your cow head should look like now. So now we're going to sew the head onto the body. So the head sewed onto the body should end up looking something like this. But basically the plan is to go round and round lots of times sewing on using this white yarn. And you really just got to make sure it's secure. But the head should also slightly go over the front of the body as well. So now we're going to use some thin yarn to tie this on. But if you are still using thick yarn, that is completely fine, obviously. But yeah, pro tip, if your thicker yarn is falling apart, then you can use your thin yarn. So since this yarn is coming out of the center, we are going to find the center point that we want to sew onto the body so that the head is slightly overhanging the body. So I reckon we're going to go about here. And then we're basically just going to go into the body and out of the body in like circles. At the very start, it won't quite be in circles though. We just need to make sure the head is somewhat on the body. So this is going to get a little bit tricky, obviously. But yeah, we'll start going around in circles now and just go into the body and then into the head and do that in several circles to make sure that it is secure. So once we are happy with how securely the head has been sewn on, we can bring the yarn to a random point in the body. And then I'm just going to cut off that yarn. And at this point, the only two things we have left to do is do the tail and do the accessory around the neck. So now we are going to do the tail into the back of the body. So we're going to grab our yarn, we're going to do a slip knot, and we're going to leave a bit of a tail on that slip knot. And we're going to slip stitch into about this point in the back of the cow. So slip stitch there. And then we will do 6 chains. And we'll single crochet back down those chains that we just done. And then we're going to slip stitch back into the original stitch that we went into. And then we're going to leave just a bit of a tail and we'll pull through. And then we'll pull through both of these tails to another part in the body. So we'll go through this stitch here and just bring it to over here. And then we will tie these two together and tuck them inside. And this is what the tail should look like once that is done. And now the last thing that we have to do is to make the accessories for the cow. So I'm going to show you how to make all three accessories, because if you've been following along with red yarn or brown yarn, you might want to make a mushroom or a cookie cow. And I'm also going to show you how to make the strawberry for this strawberry cow. So we're going to start off with the cookie accessory. So you'll need toffee and you'll also need brown for this. So we're going to start off with 6 single crochets into the magic ring with toffee yarn. Then for the following round, we are going to do 6 increases. Then we're going to do single crochet increase times by 6, which will take us up to 18 stitches. Then for the next round, we're going to do single crochet decrease times by 6. And then we're going to finish up by doing 6 decreases. And then we're going to leave a small tail. And we're going to pull through. And we're just going to add a very small amount of stuffing. And now we're going to sew this shut. So we'll just go around the outside into the front loops only. And then we'll just bring this yarn through to the other side and we'll cut it off. And now we are going to embroider the little chocolate chips on here. So grab your brown yarn and your yarn needle, need about this much. And we'll go in from the bottom and we're just going to embroider. So we'll just do little lines. That will be our chocolate chips. And then once you're happy with the amount of chocolate chips, you'll just bring your yarn to the top of the cookie. And then you'll grab your cow and you'll measure how long it needs to be to go around its neck. And then you can bring the yarn back into the cookie. So if you want it to be about there, then you would just cut off the yarn and you would tie it to the leftover tail here. And then you would be complete with your cookie cow. Since I'm doing a strawberry cow, I'm not going to tie this on. Now, if you're doing a mushroom cow, you can grab your white yarn. And to make the mushroom accessory, we're going to start off with 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Then you're going to single crochet for the next 2 rounds. Then we're going to do 6 increases, which will take us up to 12 stitches. And after this round, we're going to switch to red. So we'll grab our red yarn and we'll tie it to the white yarn. And we will cut our white yarn off. And then we're going to single crochet for 2 rounds with the red yarn. Then for the following round, we're going to do single crochet decrease times by 4. And we'll add a small amount of stuffing. And then to finish up, we will just decrease 4. Now we're going to leave a small tail to sew the top shut. And if we squish it down, then this is what it should look like. And we're going to grab some white yarn to embroider the little spots onto the mushroom. So we'll bring it in here. And we'll just embroider some lines. And then we're going to bring it to the very top. And if you want to have the mushroom hang around the neck, then you would just need to once again measure how long you want it to be around the neck, and then you'll cut it off and sew it into the mushroom. And then you'll tie the 2 white strands together to make sure it's secure. But since, once again, I don't want the mushroom around its neck, I'm going to put this aside and we're going to make the strawberry. So if we want the strawberry, we're going to grab our pink yarn. And we're going to start off with 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And then for the next round, we're just going to single crochet round. And then for round 3, we're going to single crochet increase times by 3, which will take us up to 9 stitches. For round 4, we're just going to single crochet for 1 round. For round 5, we're going to do single crochet decrease times by 3, and after this round we're going to switch to green. And now for round 6, we're going to go into the front loops only, and we are going to slip stitch into the first stitch, and then chain 2, and then increase into the first chain, and then slip stitch back into that same stitch. And then in the following stitch, we'll just do a slip stitch, and we'll do that 3 times. Now we're going to add a very small amount of stuffing. And we're going to leave a tail to sew around the neck. And then we'll pull through. And we're also going to sew the top shut with this tail. So we'll just sew across into the back loops. And then it should look like this. And we're going to grab our cow and we're going to go around the neck and find the length that we want it to be. So if we're happy with the length, we're going to sew back into the strawberry and just bring the yarn to the bottom of the strawberry. And I'm happy with that right there. If you want to, you can sew it at the top a couple of times for safety. And then you can simply cut off the green yarn at the bottom of the strawberry. And this is what your cow should look like when it is all finished. I hope you enjoyed making your cow. If you do post it online, make sure to tag me at 1cent Crochet on Instagram or TikTok. I'd love to see all of your creations. And if you'd like to purchase the written pattern, the link will be in the description. I post videos every week, so make sure to go check the other ones out if you want more free crochet tutorials. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!